Hello folks, in this video we're going to be having a look at whether Java's null is in fact an object or not. This seems to come up quite a lot and there doesn't seem to be a great answer, so I'm going to go through a few of the technicalities. So the short answer, if you just want to know whether Java's null is an object or not, the short answer is no, it's not an object. But there's a lot more to it than that. So technically, null does have a special null type in Java, but we don't know what the name of this null type is, and it can be cast to any other type. So null can be cast to any other type, like a string or an integer. It doesn't extend objects. It does not live on the heap where other objects live. References and primitives live on the stack and memory. So Java's memory is primarily split into the stack and the heap. Objects generally live on the heap, and primitives and reference variables live on the stack. Null doesn't live on the heap. Okay, it's another indicator that it's not an object. The null literal is the only possible value of the special null type. You cannot refer to this type in any way. You cannot declare something with this type directly, and you cannot cast to it. So I kind of tend to imagine that it doesn't exist. So for all intents and purposes, it's kind of useful to think of it as not a type that exists that you can refer to. And one way to think of it is as a special literal that can be of any type. Okay, so let's have a look at a few examples. So first of all, we're going to look at instance of. So does null pass the instance of check of whether it's an object or not? So let's just run that. And we can see that the answer is false. Okay, so null is not an instance of object. First indication that it's not an object because all objects in Java extend object. Okay, so string, etc., they all extend object. They inherit some of the methods that exist on the object class. Okay, to get another indication of this special type, if we run this method here, and bear in mind this doesn't compile, so you can't actually call .toString on a null, but IntelliJ will actually attempt to compile and run this so we can get some useful feedback. So let's just try that. Now in this code that doesn't compile, when we run it, we get a message saying Java null type cannot be dereferenced. Okay, so a slightly mysterious error message, but again, it refers to the null type that we mentioned earlier. Okay, now something else to bear in mind is that you cannot call any methods on a null. Now you cannot call any methods on a reference which points to null. So if we call this method here, you'll see that you get a null pointer exception because you can't call anything on a null. So again, if it was an object, if null was an object, then in theory you could still call hashcode because hashcode lives on the object class. So now the next thing we're going to look at is whether you can cast to a null type. So if null was a particular object type, you could cast to it. But as you can see here, you cannot cast to null. You just get a compile error. So the error is it's expecting one of these because it wants you to just remove that because it's not valid. Okay, so you can just do that, which is the same as doing that. So that shows that you can't cast to null. So hopefully that's shed some light on this special null type that exists, but for sure we know that Java's null is in fact not an object. Okay, that concludes this video.